Happy birthday to James Maitland Stewart, born on May 20th, 1908. Let's talk about Mr. Stewart. Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. It is 7 a.m. My name is John Henry Soto, and welcome to 7 a.m. It is May 20th, as I mentioned, 2021. And on May 20th, 1908, the man of the hour that we're going to be talking about was born May 20th, 1908. Jimmy Stewart, and one of my favorite actors. So we're going to talk about Jim today, and we're going to talk about his films and his impact in movies and his storytelling, his poetry, a lot of things. And let me see. Yesterday we had a good day. Yesterday I had a very good day actually. I went into New York City yesterday. Um, Took the train. Um, when you take the train with a crowded uh, crowded train and everyone is wearing a mask, it's really weird. I don't really wear masks here in Bayonne when we're walking around and stuff like that. Not many people do. You go into stores and stuff, and our numbers are coming down, and everything here is good. The mayor is doing a great job. The whole city council is doing a fantastic job here in Bayonne, New Jersey, taking care of us, making sure we're informed and safe. Um, so it's a wonderful thing, and it's been like that through the whole pandemic. By the way, our whole officials here have been really fantastic. Um, and then you go to New York City, and it's really weird. Okay, I'm not going to go into that because that's not what we're talking about today, right? Today we're going to be discussing Mr. Jimmy Stewart. So let's talk a little bit about Jimmy. I have some information here that I'll just quickly give on Mr. Stewart. So, like I said, he was born on May 20th, 1908, in Indiana, Pennsylvania. There's a place called Indiana, Pennsylvania. Um, his his dad owned a hardware store. Let me see what else here. In 1929, he won a place at Princeton University where he studied architecture with some success, and became further involved in the performing arts as a musician and actor with the University Players. After graduation, engagements with the University Players took him around northeastern United States, including a run on Broadway in 1932. But work dried up as the Great Depression deepened, and it was not until 1934 when he followed his friend Henry Fonda to Hollywood that things began to pick up. So I'm going to be talking about Jimmy Stewart and Henry Fonda as well, briefly. But let's just talk about his impact. He was a pilot. He was in the, you know, after he went into the war in 1940 as a private. Um, he failed a medical because he was underweight. Um, but during the course of World War II, he did rise. He was a colonel in the army, and then when he came back, he pretty much started his acting career again, and he did films. We're going to talk about some of these films. Some of them you obviously know really well. A lot of them, are classics. Most of his films are classics, even the ones that weren't box office hits. When you watch them today, they're good films. I've never seen a bad Jimmy Stewart film. I know that sounds I'm biased because I'm a huge fan, but um, I've never seen a bad film. Funny enough, when I was a kid, this is how strange of a human being I was, but I I saw um I saw It's a Wonderful Life, which I think everybody watches every year. Christmas time, it's become a Christmas holiday classic. the film was not well received when it first came out back in 19 can't remember, 40 something. Um, let's see when exactly that came out. So, and, the film wasn't well received. So, and it's funny to think of it now, but I saw that film and I really enjoyed it. It was not only his performance that was great. The whole overall story was a positive story. 1946, he played, of course, George Bailey, right? Um, and during that, watching this film, I remember I wanted to watch more films on him, and I was always like that as a kid. I'm looking at it right now. Maybe I was, oh, I don't know, 12, maybe 13 years old. From 12 to about 16 to 17, I was watching all these old movies for some reason, I don't know why. But remember, this was before any streaming services, right? Where you can just pop in a movie and you can pay a couple of bucks to see pretty much anything, right? Not anything, but there's a few Jimmy Stewart films that are unavailable that I don't know where, I can't find them. But um, there there was just television. We had whatever we had, 13, 14 channels, maybe 15 channels if you had one of those extra weird channels that was in between, or and your local public access channel, right? And that was pretty much it. So what I used to have to do was try to find out when these films were being played, and this is what I used to do. I used to go out and I would buy for 50 cents, because I remember I would buy the TV guide. Now, for those of you young, there was this thing called the TV guide, which was the guide. It was like on the front of the TV guide was usually whoever had the hottest show on television. And then when you turn it, it had Monday, the whole everything that was happening on Monday on Channel 5, everything happening on Monday on Channel 4, and so on. And it was really, really well documented, the programming. And so I would go and I would get, and I knew where the films were, where the movies were playing. And I would go to the TV guide every week and I would sit there and I would just watch and I would just cross off. And I had a little book and I would write the names of the films. Matter of fact, I still have some of these pages, believe it or not, because I save things like that. I had a list of all the Jimmy Stewart films that I saw that were on there and that I got to watch, and I checked them off and I wrote them on a sheet of paper, and I would find one. I was like, oh my God, look. And you'd have to see, like, it'd have to be the film, and then on the bottom there'd have to be a little description saying starring Jimmy. I didn't know the names of the films, so it'd have to say like Jimmy Stewart. So I would write down Jimmy's, write down, oh, okay, it's a Wonderful Life. We know that one. But then a bunch of other ones came, and then I was able to see Destree Rides Again, Fire Creek, Who Shot Liberty Vance. Um, what was one of his first ones? Made for Us, something like that. Made for Each Other. And I started, Harvey, and I started watching these films after finding them on the TV guide and stuff. And I would announce it to my grandparents. All right, Sunday at 2 p.m. I need to watch TV. Jimmy Stewart is on. You know, Rear Window, the Hitchcock Rear Window, and Vertigo, two classics, with Jimmy Stewart. And so that was how I actually was able to watch his films and to really enjoy them. The Flight of the Phoenix was one of the ones that I remember watching early on. It just happened to be on, and it wasn't considered a great film, but I really enjoyed it. I thought his performance was really great, especially that ending was really emotional. So you should check out that one. But we're going to talk about a couple of the classics that you know. I'm not going to talk about It's a Wonderful Life because that's a film that's been covered to death. I think everybody knows it. It was a great film. Um, Clarence the angel comes, he wishes some stuff, and then suddenly he disappears. He's like, wishes I was never born, and he gets his wish. He was never born. And Clarence is there, and he tries to go meet his wife, and his wife thinks, she's crazy. He's crazy, and he's like, Mary, Mary, don't you recognize me? It's me, George Bailey. And she's like, get away from me. Um, and it's a horrible thought to just think that suddenly one day, you disappear. So it's a great film. But we're not going to talk about that one. We're going to talk about a couple of his westerns. He did 20 westerns. He did 20 westerns with the same horse. The horse was named Pie. And I believe when that horse died, he had it stuffed and it's somewhere. I guess people did that to their horse. I think Roy Rogers did that to Trigger. He had the famous horse Trigger, and I think Trigger died, and he had that thing. He had Trigger stuffed and stuck somewhere. He's probably in some museum somewhere. Um, I'm not gonna go see a stuffed horse, but I understand the sentiment. All right, so let's look at one of these first classic films here that we can cover now. 1939 was see, back in this, you can make 3 or 4 films in a year, which is kind of frustrating considering now sometimes it'll take me so long to put a film together. Circumstances are different, I guess, but these people in the studios, they were cranking out these films. And in 1939, which was, by the way, a tremendous year for film, it was the year that The Wizard of Oz came out. It was the year that, what was that film? Um, what's the film? Frankly, Scarlet, I don't give a damn. What was that film? Whatever that film was. Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with Jimmy Stewart came out in 1939. Destree Rides Again, again with Jimmy Stewart came out. He did a film called It's a Wonderful World. So not It's a Wonderful Life, but in 1939, It's a Wonderful World, and Ice Follies of 1939, and Made for Each Other, which was one of his first debuts. He also sang in there and danced a little bit. He was never really a song and dance man. He didn't become that, but he did a little bit in the beginning. A lot of people don't realize that in the beginning of Hollywood, the big motion, the big MGM and Paramount films, you would sign to a contract. So you would sign to MGM, right? So you couldn't make a film with Paramount, right? You had to only stick to, or Warner Brothers. You had to only stick to MGM. And all these huge giant Hollywood studios had trainings. They had like schools basically, and you would go and you would, if you got signed to a small contract, whatever, you would go and you would study and you would learn obviously acting. You would learn how to sing, how to dance, and it was actually a school. They developed these talents. Like a lot of these movie stars that you see were developed in the studio. They actually worked on them to make sure that they presented their movie star quality, right? And it worked. It worked for a very very long time. And then if MGM had somebody that Paramount, that Warner Brothers wanted, they would then switch and trade and say, okay, we'll give you. I think one of the issues with Gone with the Wind, they originally wanted Shirley Temple, but Shirley Temple was signed to another studio, so they couldn't get her for whatever reason. But they wanted Shirley Temple for The Wizard of Oz, and instead they got Judy Garland. I can't imagine. I can't. Although Shirley Temple was great too. I mean, but I can't. It's hard to imagine that that film without Judy Garland. But all right, so let's talk some films here because I keep talking and I keep going off on a tangent. I could talk about this for literally for hours about films in general and about Jimmy Stewart. Okay, so Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was a film. I think I have this. Do I have the? I don't have it. Thought I did. So in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, he plays a sort of a naive politician that gets elected, appointed basically as a senator. And sure, he realizes that there's a lot of corruption, and he's trying to be the good guy. And he gives that famous speech in the chamber. And it's a great film, very patriotic film, very emotional film. Um, Definitely with a lot of messages that still resonate today. So that's a great film. You can check that one out. Let's show some photos here. Now he did win an Academy Award. It was for Best Supporting Actor, and it was for this film here, The Philadelphia Story. And in The Philadelphia Story, it's he plays a reporter, and he's sort of like trying to get some dirt on Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn's lives and stuff. He sort of falls for the girl, but it doesn't really work out. And they're all rich, and it's a really fun film. It is one of my favorites. I don't think it's his best performance, although there was a scene. I mean, he won an Academy Award for it, so it was a great performance. But for me personally, I thought he had some performances in other films that really got to me. As a matter of fact, this scene right here is he improvised this scene. He's kind of drinking and kind of getting a little drunk, and he improvised sort of a like kind of like when you're and Cary Grant was not expecting it. And so if you look at the scene, you watch Cary Grant and you can see it right here. This is sort of the part of it where he's about to almost break up, but he holds it together. He kind of just goes like he wants to break up, but he holds it together, and a great performance on that. So of course, there's also the Alfred Hitchcock films. If you haven't watched these films, I mean, for God's sakes, you have to watch. I mean, you should watch every Alfred Hitchcock film ever made, but you should definitely watch Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window, and of course Vertigo. And I won't tell you what but I mean, these films are obviously there's one Vertigo. It's about a guy who has problems with heights, but he has to overcome those heights in order to save the day. Rear Window is he witnesses a murder on his rear window, and he's trying to figure out what the hell to do during it, and that's a great film as well. So definitely watch those Alfred Hitchcock films; those are classics. Um, Now he did a film called Harvey. Now the film Harvey is kind of an odd film. It's a very funny film. It's a cute film, and it's he plays a guy named Harvey who basically sees this 6 foot rabbit, the invisible rabbit that nobody else sees, but Harvey talks to the rabbit, and he's there, and he'll, yeah, yeah, and what do you think of this, and he'll have these big conversations about with Harvey, with the rabbit, and it's a very cute film, very funny film. This is sort of like one of the stills from the film. People think he's crazy. He's sort of like almost brilliant in when he talks to people. He gives people these little nuggets of golden advice, and then he hears words and sentences, and he just wants to repeat them. Somebody says in one of the lines, they say, what do they say? It's a funny line where she says, "Oh, and he goes, yeah, it's the day wore on or something like that." He's like, "The day wore on." Let's say that again. The day wore on. Say that with me. The day wore on. It was some line like that. It was really, really a funny scene. But yeah, that's Harvey. Harvey's a great, great film to watch. This one right here, the Shop Around the Corner, very romantic film, very cute film. Um, did well in the box office. And I liked it very much. This was a good film. Now, the Shanghai, the Shan, whoa, yeah, the Cheyenne Social Club. I keep on saying Shanghai. The Cheyenne Social Club. So this is a funny film, but it's also, yeah, it's a funny film. I mean, he inherits this business, and he thinks, oh, it's cool. He doesn't realize that it's a brothel, um, that he actually inherits. So, and he's sort of like not that kind of a guy. And Henry Fonda's in this film now. Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart did 3 films together officially, where they were titled and put in the film. They were in really 4 films together because they were in I don't think I have it here, but they were in a film called How the West Was Won, which was a classic film, which like everybody was in that film. I mean, that was sort of one of those epic cowboy films, where somehow they were able to put everyone and anyone in that film. I mean, Henry Fonda's in that, Gregory Peck is in that, George Papard is in that, John Wayne is in the film, Spencer Tracy is in the film, of course, Jimmy Stewart, and the list goes on of all the contemporaries of that time were in this film. And it turned out to be an epic thing. It won a bunch of Academy Awards. I believe it won 3 Oscars and was nominated for like I think won 3 Oscars. It won like 7 other different type of awards. It had like 11 nominations or something. A good film. Now the one of the films that I really enjoyed, that I thought was worth mentioning. Let me see if I still have it here. Beady was Destree Rides Again. Now, this is a great film, Jimmy Stewart film. It's a film of of course, a lot of these westerns kind of have to do with sort of the same thing. There's the town is being run by thugs, and corruption, and everybody's corrupt, and then some guy comes in, some amazing cowboy comes in and kind of handles the situation, um and gets everybody resolved, right. um so one of the wonderful things about this film in particular was that he comes in as somebody who's not expecting to really do anything. What ends up happening is that the they kill one of the saloon guys, the guy who runs the saloon and stuff, and because he's trying to like go against the grain, so the mayor is corrupt, and all the thugs that are there are corrupt. The judge is corrupt, so they kill this guy off, and they appoint this guy to be he's a drunk, to be the mayor of the town. They figure they could just control him, and he's just a drunk. He's just a puppet, right? So they he gets so he decides, you know what, he's going to clean up and try to get his act together, right? So he cleans up, but he still doesn't have the skill to do this job. So he calls up Destree Jr., because his Tom Destree's father was like a great man, and so he realized that he has this relationship with him, and it's his nephew. So he calls up his nephew, and he says, can you, I just got appointed this, and this town is really corrupt, and da da da. Da. So Tom Destree Jr. Comes into town, and he cleans up the town, with some epic gunfights, of course, and some great dialogue. It's my favorite Jimmy Stewart film. You should definitely check it out. And then there was a great film called Who Shot Liberty? The Man Who Shot Liberty Vance. If you don't know about this film, this is a one of those classic films. Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne, John Wayne at his best. Well, I'll listen here, Pilgrim. It's really classic stuff. And you have to be into the idea of this period, right? um a lot of these actors that were in these early films in the 40s came from vaudeville, right? And vaudeville was a stage where it was sort of like not Broadway, it was in between Broadway. It's kind of like off Broadway, or maybe off Broadway. But they would go around and do these little shows. And a lot of these performers started out in vaudeville because there was no film, there was no movies. The movies were still fairly new. So we're looking at early 1900s, right? And they would actually come into the film industry with a lot of this, quick, with quick talking. And that's why you hear a lot of their they don't have a lot of time, right? They're doing their shows and they're on Broadway, so there's a lot of, hey Charlie, how are you today? Well, I'm doing fine. Tommy, how's everything with you? Well, you know what, I talked to my wife. And they have this kind of thing. So sometimes that seeps into films, and that's why some of the films are just not, they didn't really catch on. But every once in a while you get an actor, somebody brilliant, like Marlon Brando kind of changed the game, right? He changed everything, right? But Jimmy Stewart did the same thing, where he took that vaudeville energy, but he toned it down to theater. He was a theater actor, And then for film, he really was able to capture that the camera and really understand that this is a different medium. It's not vaudeville, it's not Broadway, it's not the theater. It's a different medium where you can get close-ups and you don't have to speak as fast as I'm doing right now. You have to be able to get through everything calmly. And so a lot of these films, the Jimmy Stewart films, have that in him, where you really get capture a moment and a character and a story, and it's really developed really well. I didn't talk about the directors, which I should do a whole episode on that because he worked a lot with these great directors, Alfred Hitchcock being one of them. I'll do an Alfred Hitchcock episode at some point. Um, but I would also like to do an episode on some of these like the Marx Brothers, for instance, who were all vaudeville, then went to Broadway. A lot of people don't realize that the Marx Brothers, by the time they got to uh to films, by the time they were actually the films came into play, they were all in their 40s already. They were experienced 25-year veterans of the theater. So that's why those films are so well shot and well thought out, and the dialogue is extremely quick because they've been doing these routines on Broadway and on vaudeville for 25 plus years. So by the time they got to the film and to the big film, the big screen, they were so well polished and well oiled machine. They were just fantastic. So a lot of these guys came in with that wonderful experience. You go back and you think of the comedians like Sid Caesar and Milton Berle and all these guys that, but Bob Hope, by the time they showed up, they were like, they just, where's the camera, right? And they already knew what to do, and the audience is immediately being familiar with that type of thing. But now it coming to your home was a major, major, major thing. So like I said, I can do a 4-hour episode on this, and I don't even feel like I covered Jimmy enough. But um, Jimmy Stewart, a wonderful guy. Oh, I didn't talk about. I will. You know what? I'm gonna do an episode on these two guys here, Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart. This is before they were huge. They were basically just in the theater in New York City. And so here's this wonderful photo. This is one of the films that they did together. Called what was this film called? This was a good one too. Can't remember what this one was called, but um I'm gonna get the name because I can't leave you hanging without knowing. It was a really great film that they did together early on, and it was actually the first time that they were opposite each other, and they played jazz musicians in this film. um and the film was called, oh Lord. All right, you know what? I'll get the name of the film. I can't believe I forgot the name of this film. All right, folks, want to thank you for for tuning. Oh, Fire Creek. That's what it was called. Yes. So that's a great film too. Um, I think it was Fire Creek. You know what? It might not have been Fire Creek. Don't quote me on any of this. I apologize that I'm not as prepared as I should have been for that film, but they worked together on three films, as I mentioned, and they were really, really fantastic in that. So check out Jimmy Stewart. Go out tonight and check out a couple of his films that I mentioned today. Enjoy them. And then report back to me. Let me know what you think. If you like what I'm doing here, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell there so you get notifications every time I go live with a video or every time I go live. Um, and I will see you all again tomorrow morning. I want to thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Oh, I got a comment here. Name the film. Yeah, I know, right? I really should. I feel bad now. How? Hold on. You know what? I am gonna name it. Sorry, I cut out somehow. I don't know what happened there, but that was like my computer went. Vroom. I've been having a little bit of internet issues lately, and kind of screwed me up a little bit. Um, putting me on the spot here. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get the name of this film because you're right. It's like, well, what the hell? Um, get it right now because I had it on my screen before. On Our Merry Way. There you go. All right, I did it. Took me 30 minutes to get there, but but I did it. So the film is called On Our Merry Way. A really great film also, actually. They play jazz musicians. They're not the lead, but they have a good role in there. All right, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for hanging out. Make today great. Do the things that you love and take care of yourselves. And as always, peace.